Hello, and welcome to today's online intelligence briefing on the capability developments and operational activities of China's People's Liberation Army Navy. The People's Liberation Army Navy is currently in a period of rapid expansion in which it's building naval ships at a much faster rate compared with other navies, in addition to expanding its area of operations. In today's briefing, our speakers will provide an update on the service's recent activities, including an assessment of the new platforms being brought into service and the capabilities they bring, as well as the Navy's expanding area of operations and the impact of this growth trajectory in the coming years. I'd like to add that the majority of the information used to compile today's presentation has been taken from the James Defence Equipment and Technology Intelligence Centre, with all of the projections from McKelly and Alex taken from the Markets Forecast Military Ships database.
Alex and I are going to cover naval industrial activity in China and focus on this particular point of view. And as such, we will provide an overview of the activity that has been noticed in the past few years in Chinese shipyards, and we try to take it from there and project what we expect for the Chinese Navy to look like in the years to come. In addition to this, a few selected programs will be looked at in greater details because, in our view, these acquisitions in particular will provide a significant increase in capability for Chinese blue water ambitions. Alright, so I will now show you a chart that we have created based on our database, James Markets Forecast. This chart will show you the overall value of naval production that we estimate for China in the 2010 to 2024 period. As a side note, I think it is worth mentioning that this data is not based on official sources provided by the Chinese government, but rather on our modeling and understanding of China's intentions for its Navy, as well as average platform costs for comparable international programs and other criteria. So what we did, in a nutshell, was to create a model that tracks this activity in shipyards by breaking down the estimated ship's cost and allocating portions of work in the years when the project is understood to take place. The chart that we'll be looking at represents the practical application of this model. If we select 2010, however, we can see that production value went from around $3.6 billion in that year to nearly $9 billion in 2015. And we can see that a number of procurement programs have contributed to this increase, but the ones that stand out the most, perhaps, for that delta are the acquisitions of destroyers and SSNs, as you can see from hovering over these specific programs, and the orange one on SSNs, yes. These two programs are going to be covered in greater details by Alex later on, however, so I will not spend too much time on that now. More money will eventually be pumped in Chinese shipyards in the out years in order to sustain a production drumbeat for modernizing aging assets, which will be due for replacement in the out years, as well as to maintain the expanding trajectory set in these past years by this Chinese Navy.
And in addition to the carriers, as a very visible example of naval construction activity in China, surface combatants come to mind as another very important area in terms of both value, as I'll show you using the charts here, and obviously in terms of visibility and activity, fleet activity. So these are the platforms we have seen around the world and various international deployments over the last years as well, as we've heard from Rizwan. Now, let's have a look at DDGs, so destroyers, which in the window we're looking at here in the model account for up to 27% of total spend of $100 billion in that window. Programs included in this include the Type 052C destroyers, the Luoyang 2s. After 6 units, we saw a transition to the updated and considerably different Type 052D, with new phased array radars and vertical launch systems. And that program in particular is of note in 2015. Now, this was an interesting development where from 2010 we saw a very rapid production ramp up at multiple yards, more than 4. And to date, we have seen more than 30 hulls entering service. Our overall projection is for more than 40 of those Type 056 Jiangdao class corvettes in 2 versions, a general purpose and anti-submarine warfare specialist ship. As I've noted, very rapid production ramp up, And if we look back at past capabilities in this sector, corvettes were not really a fleet ship type that was noticeable in the PLA Navy in 2000. However, if we take into account a fleet of 87 and more than 200 additional fast attack craft and patrol boats with missile armament of various types, we can see the corvettes as a replacement of these missile boats of some sort, and giving additional capability to push activities into the near seas like the South China Sea with additional endurance and capability over those smaller missile boats.
Yeah, to wrap it up, I will now list a few key takeaways that we have identified during the presentation. On the operational side, Riesman has highlighted that China's deployment tempo and rate has increased significantly in the last 10 years, which in turn is likely to trigger reciprocal reaction from extra-regional powers with interest in the Asia-Pacific region. However, not all countries in the Asia-Pacific region are reacting similarly to China's presence.
Okay, it looks like our time is up. Thank you for joining us today for this event. We look forward to welcoming you to future online briefings. Our next online briefing, which is on data-driven conflict analysis in Syria and Iraq, is being held next Tuesday.